Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Reseller Locker Room, episode 61. And hang on, kids, because it's going to be a bright one. Merry Christmas. The Cha Ching King is here. We're going to talk to Scott. Don't go anywhere. Ho, ho, ho. What's up, everybody? My name is Ben, the Rocky Top Picker, followed by Alex, the Beard King Picker, Chris, Easy Pickens, and our special guest, the one, the only, the mastermind of reselling in YouTube. Please welcome Scott, Mr. Cha Ching King. Welcome in, Scott, to the locker room.
Thank you, thank you,
Scott. Man, Ben, you're in the holiday spirit today, or what?
Yeah. Ho, 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 my friends.
Or is reselling getting bad? That's your new side gig. You got to be Santa for December.
I guess. I got to give stuff away. I can't sell anything. But anyway, okay. Well, we're here in the locker room, as I said, with Scott Cha Ching King, and we don't want to waste any viewers' time here. Scott, I told you backstage before we hit record that you were one of my first channels that I come across in the reselling space on YouTube and learned a lot. And we're going to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit later in the program, but I have to say that if you're someone looking to get started in YouTube, or you've been in a while and you need to learn basics so you don't screw up yourself, you need to go back and watch this gentleman's channel. He does excellent content on shipping and various other reselling topics that you don't want to miss. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But Scott, I want you to tell us and the viewers a little bit about your history of where you came from in the working world and how you fell into reselling.
So in my real life, I was originally an elementary school teacher and went on to be a principal. And then I spent the last 12 years of my career as a superintendent. But I've been on eBay since 99, and I resold stuff to survive back in the 70s. So when you're looking at retirement, like a lot of people, you still have an income. You still, I'm still viable. I'm not done. So we already had eBay, and my retirement date was in 2019, and we started looking at ramping it up. And because we just sold mainly it was lumber. I sold woodworking tools. I have a lumber mill, or had a lumber mill, and sold a lot of lumber. And then my wife got involved, and the next thing I know, I'm selling wiglets, and we had to change the name of the channel, but when we were looking at retirement, we started ramping it up, and we started getting more serious. Like, let's make sure we're listing something every day, and let's make sure that we've got a way to get some decent inventory, and with a plan. Like, our original plan was to hopefully make our original goal was like $14 a day. Like, we were trying to, there was some kind of,
wow.
And then it was 100. We're like, God, I think you could make 100 a day. And of course, if you work at it, you can blow by that. And honestly, it's been terrific. We've done exceptionally well with eBay. We do eBay and Poshmark, a little bit of Facebook Marketplace and Etsy, but not even in the thousands a year. Just enough to where I'm capable of using those platforms if I needed to.
Right.
You know Macari at all? You never messed with that?
Never messed with it. Never messed with it.
They just changed their whole policy. They backtracked on the free, no, what was it, fees, and now they're going back to charging fees to the seller. I think they just announced that the other day. So
yeah, I seen that.
I did notice that there were a lot of people talking about it, that it had hit the airwaves, that people were like, man, I just finally had some good sales, and now they changed it again.
So, really? I just deleted everything because nothing was selling over there.
So, for us, we do well enough on eBay that honestly, it covers everything I need. But I think it would be foolish, and I would tell anybody this, that if you're going to depend on something for an income, I'm not giving any single entity that kind of control over my financial health. So we have Poshmark and Etsy because we sell a lot of vintage stuff, and I keep those up and running, and we sell a little bit, so that if eBay lost its mind, which it never has for me, but if it did, I can immediately start listing my things on other platforms, and nobody's going to control me.
Yeah,
got
no, I preach the same thing. I think you should learn every platform just in case one, shuts down or whatever happens, You should at
Right.
least have enough knowledge to be not to flip out and be able to move your stuff to another platform with ease.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing to have.
Sounds
Go
smart.
ahead, Chris.
Sounds smart. Have you ever used any cross-listing tools or anything?
Yeah, I
Scott?
use List Perfectly. I actually didn't get it first because of the cross listing. Were any of you affected? It's been 3 or 4 years ago now that eBay lost photographs.
No,
Oh yeah.
So I woke up one day and like 250 of my listings, all of my photos were gone, except the first one. And I never got them back. They were like, "Oh yeah, you'll just have to relist them." I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Like I'm slow as molasses in January. You're talking about like man's work there. And so it was after that we got List Perfectly so that I have a place that has
stores everything.
a catalog of the things that I've got listed.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to have. I didn't realize that it actually stored all the information and the photos. Have you been using? I know we talked about it last episode where you just take a picture and it fills out everything for you. It's like a new AI that they launched. Have you experienced with that yet?
I have. I've tried it. It's kind of scary good.
Okay.
But as much as I like it, and listen, it really is better than you probably think it is. It's still not a human. And so like for the descriptions and things like that, it's not terribly good. Or like the some of the things that I sell are one-off and you can post a picture of it, but it doesn't know what it is because nobody else in the world has one. Other people are smarter. They don't buy stuff that nobody's ever seen, but not me. So
Is that being offered by eBay? Alex?
no, that's List Perfectly.
List
Oh,
perfectly.
List Perfectly.
So
Now
you
listen, right now, and no joke, List Perfectly is slicker than butter on a bald monkey. If you want to use the listing tool, you can put your pictures up there, especially if you were listing something that like everybody has seen, and you take the pictures and it fills out 90% of it, and you go in and clean it up, and then it'll send it to the platforms you want, and it will automatically take them down if something sells.
Yeah, Ben, you have enough sayings. You don't have to steal other people's sayings.
Yeah, I got to write those things down there.
Now, when you're using one of those tools like that, if you utilize the end and sell similar, then that'll probably mess up that whole scenario, wouldn't it?
But I've never done that. I've tried it. I've experimented with it, but for me, it just didn't do anything.
Right.
Normally for me, if something sits, I've got a whole box of stuff here that I pulled down today. If it sits for 2 years, it's because the item sucks. It's, nobody wants it. Like, it's not because for me, it's never stale. Most of the things I list, somebody wants that item and it's going to sell. If I get the right price on it, it's going to sell. So when I run sales, I will stagger them, and the oldest stuff I'll run the deepest discounts on. But as far as ending and relisting, I have dust mop pads that I still sell, and I listed them 7 years ago.
Yeah, can you dive into that story just a little bit for people that aren't aware of that big buy that you did?
Oh, the dust mop pads?
Yeah, that's
so we and people really need to hear it because there's probably something similar to you. There's a company near us, it's in Dallas, Fort Worth area, called Rosen Systems, and they do bankruptcy auctions. It's not like bankruptcy.com or anything like that. They do actual bankruptcy auctions. And there was a company named Jesco that went out of business. And they're the place like they have like a kiosk in the mall where they're cutting a hammer with their knife and then they'll cut a tomato and well, they had dust mop pads and we didn't know how many we bought. Like the picture, it's only like that big, but it was like 2 4x4 by 8 foot pallets of dust mop pads, and we paid $20 for them.
That's crazy.
And so we get home and half of them are stained because there was a blue plastic thing in between them. And at first I had 2 listings and I sold thousands of them like that. And my wife is so much smarter than me. And at one point she goes, "Why don't we just put the stained listing, and then they'll get some that aren't, and then you just have one listing and you're not having to figure it out. So, and I think we've probably cleared, I would guess $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 off of it. And I'm like a little over halfway through. So as far as it being an old listing and stale, nah. Like as soon as spring rolls around, I don't know what's going on in Canada, but the Canadians are going to start snatching those things up and paying the fees to get them to Canada. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Well, hopefully by then you can ship to Canada again, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Canada may be a complete dust bowl before they can get back to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, do you just have one eBay store?
No, I have two. I have the store that we primarily sell out of, and then I have that's the one I've had forever. And then I have one that has merch on it that I don't even tell anybody about. But I maintain it because when I do a tutorial video, it doesn't have a store subscription. So I'm always able to look at what you can do with the store subscription and what you can do without one. Because I don't really sell the merch. I've always given away I think I've sold 3 shirts, and I think I've given away 500. So
okay.
I don't try to sell them to anybody.
Now in your store you've had for a long time, as you said, how many items do you currently offer in your inventory?
Well, we've been reducing by quite a bit. So I'm right around 400 right now.
Wow. That's excellent.
Yeah, we were at like 1,500, and but you know, we this isn't all we do. We take care of my mom, we take care of my wife's parents, and I need to keep eBay manageable. And if you do eBay, you know that it'll straight up take over your house, your everything. And so we've been giving a lot of inventory away, and just trying to get it down to. We focus more on our average sale price than we do like listings. I don't care how much I list, how many items, but I do care how much I list, like, you know, value.
Are you trying to hit when you're listing? Are you trying to hit a certain goal then every day or every other day?
No, I list cool stuff. I list stuff I like, and I list stuff that's valuable. And I get so many opportunities to pick that I quit worrying about quantity at all. And so like today, I was doing other stuff today. So I listed a hat for 85, and I listed a jersey for 800.
Wow.
And I think I listed something else, but I don't remember. Like it, you know, I list stuff I like. Like I still want to make a lot of money, and I don't want to feel like I'm working. So that's the whole goal.
Yeah, I love that model.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about, since you're talking about you have opportunities to go source, I kind of want you to dive into the importance of building relationships in this business.
Yeah, that was my whole last video. I think it's the most important thing we do. When I first retired, we were doing like the Goodwill bins. And here's the problem for someone like me at the Goodwill bins. Let's say that I'm there and Chris is there next to me, and there's a shirt in front of us and both of us want it. I'm never going to take that away from him. Period. I am not going to push and shove somebody to get items. So the bins for me, for the most part, worked out good because most of the people were nice to me and they would give me the stuff I was looking for. But you entered a few t-shirt bros, and then pretty soon it got harder to be nice to people. So, but I have always told people what I do. Like, you know, I tell people I'm a reseller. We buy and sell. And I think those relationships, they get me into places before that stuff ever gets to an estate sale, before it ever gets anywhere. I've got one, hopefully, crush fingers, coming up in Dallas. And all she texted me was, she goes, "This one's a doozy." So like now I haven't slept since she sent me the note. But it's somebody I know, and they will let me have a key to the place. They buy houses and flip them. Okay. And so a lot of the houses are just full of whatever. And the deal is they don't need my help getting rid of guns or gold or cash. So if I come across those, I'll set them aside for them or give them to them or make sure they're safe. And they know that I would. And there's not an amount. Like I know y'all don't know me, but let's say that I came across $100,000 in cash that nobody knows about. I would not take that money.
Mhm.
Like, I just wouldn't do it. And they know that. And I think when people know that, I get a lot of opportunities to come look and go check things out. And, I've had people tell me, because I've also gone back to people and where I bought something and I thought I had the price right. The soda cans, I think it might be 2 years ago now. I'm at a garage sale. I looked them up. They were like a quarter, the old flat top soda cans. And so she said she wanted $10. And I honestly bought them to give away because I've got a friend with an antique store. And I got home and I looked up a different brand that was in the box, and it was like $300 to $500 per can.
Whoa.
And so I ended up making like $2,000 on it. And I was like, but this was a random garage sale. And believe it or not, I got on Facebook and I said, all right, I was at a random garage sale and I bought something that was worth a lot of money that I didn't think it was. And the lady, she ended up messaging me. She goes, I think it was me. She goes, it was that owl thing. I had also bought a crocheted owl. I said, it was you, but it was the can. She goes, no, we looked them up. I said, no. So I took her a couple of $100, but word of mouth, like I think I told Ben, population in Penelope is 181. And you know what they say about small towns, there may not be much to see, but what you hear makes up for it. Like everybody knows everybody's business. And if you treat people fairly, you get opportunities. And
that kind of reminds me, Scott, your background and your geographical small population location is kind of in favor with Kevin, the Commonwealth Picker. He lives in a small town in Virginia. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, Kevin.
Never talked to him.
Never talked to him.
No,
Okay.
I have talked to him. I met him at FlipCon. He didn't really talk to me. He was like, your channel's not big enough yet, so I'll talk to you later. He didn't say that. Cut that out.
Oh, but he was thinking it. we know how Kevin is, but it's
nice to me. Like,
he was a school teacher too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys favor a lot in those aspects, but you've already touched on this. Your main source of sourcing, and forgive me, but I have to use the slang term that was gifted to me on last week's show by Primo Chemo. What is your poop loop? In other words, do you go to yard sales, garage sales, Goodwills, thrift stores? What's your main hub of sourcing?
I would say it's probably over the last 4 years, I would say it's been 80% private picks.
Yeah.
And maybe 15% storage lockers and 5% just playing, just having fun.
Okay. Are you buying the storage lockers in person, or are you doing them online auctions?
Online, like
online
storage treasures.
Yeah.
You want in on a secret that I haven't told anybody? I literally have not told anybody. Yeah. I am actually, the storage locker videos that I've done, that doesn't really fit my audience. If you've looked at my channel, it's tutorials for people that are just getting started. And I'm going to start a storage locker channel. Storage lockers and private picks, that whole, I go into a lot of abandoned homes with permission. And I think I'm going to try it and see.
So you're making that announcement here on the locker room that you're starting a new channel.
I guess I did. I got my friend of mine.
You heard it here first, guys. Remember that.
Yeah.
What's the name of the channel going to be?
Cha Ching King picking.
Okay. So mostly storage lockers and maybe some private picks if you can.
And some private picks when I get them. And it isn't going to be, I'm not going to like push out a video every week. I'm going to do the videos when I get them, because when I go into a locker, we pull out the good stuff but we give away everything else. Like I don't do whatnot. I don't have, I don't really sell the stuff locally because nobody's going to drive from Dallas, an hour to come out here and get a sweatshirt, so unless you have something that's actually really, really valuable, I have to have a way to give this stuff away. Penelope is a poor county. It's in a poor county. And so we get an opportunity to really help some people too.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of our business model is
That's
give away
great.
all we can.
That's
Do you
great.
use
Can you-
Marketplace, Scott?
Have I used Marketplace?
No, do you use Marketplace regularly or Craigslist or
No,
anything like that?
no, it's
Any
very
local
rare. Like I
marketplace?
have something on there now. Like if you watch my storage locker from a few years ago, I bought it was a 10 by 30 that was stacked about 7 feet tall with vintage sweats, new old stock. And I've been selling them for 2 years, but I'm like, man, I'm tired of it. Like they're selling. I mean, I don't think you can see. Those are all sweats over there.
Oh yeah.
Like health knit, like, and of course, when I put them on Facebook Marketplace, people are like, "Oh, you got any Champion reverse weave in there?" And I'm like, if I had boxes of Champion reverse weave, I would actually have a crown or hair implants or something. I would have spent like it's all Toltecs and health knit and starter stuff like that.
You could do a full whatnot sweatpants show.
I easily could. I probably still have 1,000 or 2,000 pair. Like, but I don't want to. Like it's hard to explain. Like I make enough. Like between eBay and I'm retired, so I have there's a floor to my income. And if I wanted to change my lifestyle, I could just not work. I would have to change my lifestyle drastically. More importantly, I'd have to change my wife's lifestyle. So, but I don't.
That's
I don't
not
have
gonna happen,
to
right?
squeeze every dime out of a dollar. And
Yeah.
if there is a kid I'm talking to that might want the sweats, and like I say, I know there's got to be 1,000, but there could be 2. And I told him $500, and unless he didn't have it, and then I would sell it to him cheaper because
Yeah.
What
Let me
Oh,
go ahead,
Ben.
Alex.
I was just curious because you say you personally don't do whatnot, but do you really think that is the future of reselling is the live auctions?
I really do. And I think that the live auctions are 100% going to be a big, big thing going forward. I'm not going to do it. I don't picture me doing that. I don't know that I have the kind of personality to do that. Plus, think back to what my channel is. My channel is you've got a whole bunch of people out there that this economy is hit right in the face. And they are looking for help and hope. And I don't want them to feel like I'm trying to get them to buy stuff from me. And so whatnot, you kind of pull your audience over to whatnot. And I know that it ends up being its own audience, but I want to help them. And I don't do that by convincing them to send me money. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean,
Chris just
knowing
left.
your
He was like, I can't do this.
knowing your background now that you're a teacher, it makes sense that you went the route of more educational channel on YouTube. So having the school background, that makes sense as a teacher. Can we talk about a little bit of the importance of branding yourself as a reseller?
Good.
As
As
a
far
reseller.
as far as building a brand, because you've really done a good job at building a brand with your YouTube channel. And everyone knows what they're getting when they come to you because your brand is educational channel. So what are the benefits of building a brand as a reseller?
See, I feel so unqualified to talk about this because I don't know a thing. Like, I would love to tell you. Let me tell you how I ended up with the name. So here's how the Cha Ching King thing started. I was a superintendent in a little bitty town. And we knew that when I retired that we were going to need supplemental income because we take care of a lot of people. And I thought in my ignorance that Instagram was another selling platform because I heard about people selling over there. So I thought, well, I'll make one. And but I didn't want to use my name because I didn't want people in town to hear me talking about making money. Because I was the superintendent and I wasn't doing it during work. So Cha Ching King rhymed like I don't have a better plan than that. And then as far as the artwork goes, a guy that I went to high school with is a graphic artist. And I told him, I said, I'm going to pay full price. And I told him what I wanted. And he was like, okay. And he goes, and if you're going to pay for it, he goes, well, let me tell you, we're not going to do that. Like he goes, I'm going to make your logo. And and he said, I'll make the one you want, but then I'm going to make one that'll work. And so he made my logo, like, because it's what he does. And it was like, because he said, I'm going to put you on it. I said, nobody wants to see me. Like, this is a great face for radio, not like, can't put my face in a logo. And of course, when he drew it, it was like, oh, okay, that's stupid cool. And I was like, all right. And so I went with it. And so my branding was ignorance and luck. So write that down, like ignorance, because I don't. It wasn't intentional. Like, I would love to tell you that I know a lot about marketing, but I don't.
Well, now that we're jumping into the YouTube segment here, let's put this up on the screen. Love the logo, bro. It is you in a cartoon, my friend.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, very nice. So cool. And so, folks, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, go on over, look him up. Cha Ching eBay. That notification when you make a sale. I figured that's where you pulled it from, Scott, is every time you hear that cha-ching on your phone.
Right.
Go over to his YouTube channel. My goodness, for a guy that doesn't claim a lot of notoriety, Scott.
You got something figured out over there.
You got 69K following you there on that channel. So that's a lot to be proud of.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me tell you something about that number, though. And not what you think. Because I do a lot of tutorials for new people, you get a lot of subscribers. So a lot of people subscribe because they're like, oh, I want to do this. But as you guys know, eBay's reselling online is hard work. And so a lot of them find out that it's not what they thought it was going to be. It's not just, you go pick up a basketball jersey and you list it for $800 and that's it. There's 50,000 other things you get before you get an $800 item. And so I don't necessarily get more views than somebody with, say, 10 or 15,000 views. And I don't care. I mean, that's not, I didn't ever plan on having a YouTube channel. So that's not an issue for me, like, at all.
You have a lot of evergreen content, though, because
I make evergreen content intentionally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of touched on it there, Scott. So let's back it up a second. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
I didn't. So I made Instagram to so that because I thought I could sell stuff over there. My wife is the one. She's like, you need to do YouTube, and I'm like, never. I am never going to do YouTube. I said, I just got out of the public life. Like, I just got done with a public job. And I said, I am never going to do that. And she kept pressing. I said, I'll tell you what, if I ever get to like 10,000 on Instagram, then I'll do YouTube. Because I thought that number was safe. But that was before they were doing like the live videos and stuff like that. And I post some cool stuff. I find cool stuff. Like, I do find cool stuff. And so I ended up with 10. And then I was like, all right, I'll make a few videos. And but I'll tell you what I've got out of it. What I get out of it is the only thing I have missed from my job, and I had a great job. I was 12 years as a superintendent in a great place to be, but I have missed the kids. I've missed the teaching part of it. And YouTube gives me some of that. Like, I get a chance to help people. And as far as the negativity, everybody talks about how negative people on YouTube are. I'm like, none of you guys were a superintendent. Like, this is like a cakewalk.
It's nothing.
Like, somebody would be like, you're fat. And I'm like, you're blocked. like I don't get your kid back tomorrow. Like we're done.
Yeah, that is true. Kids are really rude too. They can be.
Well, let me tell you what, though. I tell you, kids today are way better than my generation. Like, for the most part, they're pretty tolerant of each other. They take care of each other. It doesn't match what's on the news. But like we were knuckleheads. Like,
wow.
So,
well, this is jumping back and forth on eBay and YouTube, of course. But anyway, question is, have you had it in your eBay selling career where you've had to block a buyer?
Oh yeah.
Now, the reason why I ask you that, Scott, is a good friend of ours, and to this channel, Paige, the 1 Foot Flipper, just put out a video recently about the types of buyers that you should block.
Really? I missed that one. That's fun.
It was comical, but a lot of what he said is right on the money, in my opinion. What do you think?
Didn't his title says something like I blocked thousands of people?
Yeah. Yes.
So I blocked enough that I know there's a limit. Like you can't just block forever.
Really?
So, yeah, no, it's like 5,000. So like, I mean, I'm nowhere near it, but
Wow.
there's a lot to be said for
Ben paid extra so he could block more people.
Yeah, I up my store subscription so I can block more people.
So
go ahead, Scott.
I think there's a whole lot to be said for that. That most of the people you're going to run into on eBay, you just have something they want it, and that, I mean, you guys know we're not dealing with scammers all day. We're not fighting with people all day. But if I get somebody, I have like a what's it called, a Microsoft Surface that I sold today, I think for $275. But I had a guy that like 10 questions before without making an offer. I had best offer on. He never made an offer, and he's trying to get it like for nothing. And then I go, first of all, we're off on the wrong foot. And not because of the 1 Foot Flipper thing. We're off on the wrong foot because this guy's asking me 1,000 questions. They don't make an offer, and they're asking me just on the messages if I'll take it. And then when I go look at the feedback that they leave other sellers, they use feedback like a weapon. And so for me, peace out. I don't need that. Like I would truly give away the Microsoft Surface before I would sell it to somebody that I know is going to be a problem for me. Yeah. I would literally give it away. And it sold today for $275.
Nice.
Wow. That's like Paige says, with him, one strike and you're out. He just blocks you.
Yeah, but, like,
we've all seen the signs, right? Like you say, like a few random questions and then more questions. Now they're asking it for cheaper. It's like, man, get out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Would you call that a soft mauve pink, or would you say that's more of a maroon mauve pink? And I'm like, I think that's a block. Like,
it's a buyer that will never be happy.
Now, back in the early days of me reselling on eBay, it was always a big thing at the time, and I don't see it that much anymore as we have a lot of resellers now. But back in the day, it was very important. At least that was the impression, and it was upon me years ago. In your description, it's important to put "comes from a smoke-free home." Do you remember seeing any of that, Scott?
Oh yeah, I used to put it all in there.
Yeah. Now, I said that to say this. In Paige's latest video, which, by the way, you want to go support 1 Foot Flipper's channel, but watch that latest video. But he says another type of customer that you want to block is the smelling customers. They'll send you questions. Does it have a smell? And it's over ridiculous stuff like a coffee mug. Does it have a smell to it? If they're asking you that before anything starts, block them.
I kind of get that question about smoking. I get that question a lot selling books, if they have a smell, or because sometimes they get mildew in them, or if they're in a smoker's house, the pages are going to hold all the smoke.
Yeah.
So I understand that question, especially when it comes to clothes too. I don't want to buy a sweater that hasn't been washed that smells like cigarette smoke.
Well, Paige's point to that was, gentlemen, is he's being asked those questions on stuff that's not clothing related. I mean, he's talking about Pokemon cards and stuff like that. But I found that to be kind of humorous that, if you were part of the blockers club.
Yeah. Yes. I am the president.
Well, Paige needs to be your VP because you guys are rocking it. But, all right. There's another question with YouTube I wanted to touch on. And every reseller runs their business differently. That's obvious. And we've always talked about this on the show, is there's no wrong or right way to resell. Obviously, you'll figure out what you're doing wrong if you're paying attention. But a lot of us have patterns. We talk about it here with me and Chris and Alex. We go in, we list X amount of items every day. You've got a procedure you do daily. you've already mentioned earlier in the show that you're okay if you don't list every day.
Mhm.
Well, what is your approach? Because if you're a reseller and you're on YouTube, we're dealing with algorithms.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of us get caught up in those algorithms and a lot of us don't. So what is your approach to your YouTube channel? Obviously, it's preached, you need to be consistent in uploading content. What's your experience with that?
So I'm not a big believer in like the algorithm, and let me tell you why. But with some caveats to that. So if I find a Type 1 Levi's jacket that's still got its original tags on it, I could have listed nothing for 5 years, and that is gonna sell immediately if I have the right price on it, because the algorithm isn't gonna care. That's gonna get seen immediately. So, how you beat the algorithm, if you're gonna do like me, because I'm not I say that we list almost every day, but I don't have this churn and burn kind of mentality. We're listing what we want. Um, but I try to beat the algorithm by finding things that are desirable and coveted and not available anywhere else. And I've spent way more effort studying so that I know those things to make me more competitive without me having to list 20 items a day. Like I don't want to do that. I want to list things that are going to make me enough money. Like I said, we still have to make, if I do, I got to make at least 100 a day just to do some of the stuff we want to do. But as far as being consistent goes, it's a lot like any job. Let's say that you work at the mall, and if you don't go to work very consistently, you're not going to make enough. Even if you didn't lose your job, if you don't go in and do the job, you're just not going to make anything.
Mhm.
So I list stuff that gets found anyway, and when it doesn't, I'll give it to somebody else and I'll move on to other things. So I beat the algorithm by having stuff people are going to find. But you still have to be consistent, or you can't have worked one day 3 years ago and expect to be making any money. Like
Right.
you're still going to have to go to work. I've said it in a lot of my videos. There is no free money. Like whether you're doing eBay or whatnot or working at the mall, there's no free money. You're going to
Right.
have to do the work.
Right.
And I think there's probably more flexibility in how you do it with this than what we as YouTubers tell people. But um, you build the business to suit your life so that it works for you.
That makes sense. Now,
Yeah.
the question about as far as your YouTube channel, now Scott, correct me if I am wrong, but what I have been drawing from you in this conversation as it relates to your YouTube channel is the YouTube channel is, and tell me if I'm wrong, is not really a passion that you are pursuing for that to make a lot of money. Am I right or wrong about that?
I don't know that you're wrong. It's it's probably I just haven't stated. I would love to make a lot of money. Like if I could knock down 20 or 30 grand a month, I would love that. Like there's stuff I
Yeah.
could do with that. I
But
I would, but as far as me chasing the dollars, no.
okay. So your approach to your building your channel as it is now is not something that you put in a weekly to-do list. Oh, I need to make a video this week. What I'm saying is you're just kind of more lax with your uploads, or are
I
you on a schedule?
No, I try to do one video a week.
Okay.
But and so like I will probably it'd be probably better to say that I do maybe 45 to 50 videos a year. So
Mhm.
like if something happens and I can't do a video, I'm not going to beat myself up over it.
Right.
And I don't want to make a video just to make a video if I don't think it's going to help somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Like my channel didn't grow at all. At first I was like, I want to make a video like this. I think this one will get me a lot of subscribers, or I think people will watch this one. My channel grew none. And finally, my wife and I were talking about it, and I was like, I really, truly, I really want to help somebody. And so in my head, I create this avatar of some single parent at home. They got 2 kids. They've already got a job, and they're looking for help and hope. And I thought, that's who I want to make the videos for. Like, there's plenty of YouTubers that can tell you how to list 20 items a day. But you know, somebody who's doing all these other things can't do that. And so when I started making videos for them, my channel started growing. When I quit worrying about me and my numbers and like that, then my channel started growing. But keep in mind, the subscriber count, those are vanity numbers. Those are fake internet points. It's views that are what matter.
Right. Exactly. Gentlemen, you got other questions as it relates to that?
Not that. I was just going to say list on eBay because it's better than going to the mall to have to work. That sounds awful.
I worked at the mall when I met Melody.
What'd you do at the mall?
Well, we met in '85, and I was managing Foot Action.
Okay.
I remember that store.
Foot Action.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how of course she was going to ask me out because I was wearing those polyester green pants, and that's like that was like a done deal.
I couldn't do the mall. That's too many people for me to deal with a day.
Wow.
Man.
Well, Chris, you got a question?
Yeah, so maybe you'll share it, maybe you won't, Scott. Will you share your ASP on eBay, like roughly? Like, what do you? So what makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
What average do you like to see? You know,
like right now it's $75, $74. Okay. It's probably a little higher today because I had a couple of big sales. So, but above 50 is tremendous. I think. I think, like, the way I look at it, you know, I'd love to make a couple of $100 a day, and we normally do that. And if I can make a couple of $100 a day and list 3 to 5 items, that's perfect. Now, I would prefer to list 1 item a day and make $500, but that's right. I don't have a $500 ASP. So right now it's 70, but it depends upon what I get. So I have come across times where I'm able to buy a bunch of stuff that's super easy to list, but it isn't going to bring as much. And I'm cool with that too. You know, like the dust mop pads bring my average way down, but I made 1 listing 7 years ago.
Yeah. Still paying.
Yeah, the return is undeniable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I have a similar model, you know. Mine hover between 60 and 70. My ASP does. But yeah, I like to shoot for the higher items too. I will also, like you said, buy the smaller items if they're going to move, you know. Like, I just recently purchased a whole lot of Department 56 stuff. I listed it all in a week, and 95% of it sold in 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
But each item was only $25 to $40, you know.
Yeah. So it's less about, you know, because some things are fun to list. You know, some things like I really like some of the vintage hats. Like, I really do. And so I come across a cool baseball cap, even if it doesn't hit the average sale price. I really like that. And I like some of the old rock stuff. I still have a striper door pennant. I need to pull that out and list it.
That's cool.
So, but I don't like listing shoes, which is funny because I worked at Foot Action, but
it gave you
I don't mind memories of all the people at the mall. Clean and expensive.
Well, Scott, do you get into do you do any clothing? Except, well, I'm not talking about sportswear, but clothing.
Yeah, tons. Mostly clothing.
Mostly
clothing. We do a ton of vintage clothing, but we bought a storage locker. This is the craziest story ever, and I didn't put out the second video, and I'll tell you why. But the first, I bought a storage crate. Do you know what those are? Like, somebody's moving, everything's in a wooden box. Bought it blind. That's one of the benefits of having YouTube is, like, let's spend the money. It'll be a YouTube video, even if it's full of used diapers. Like, we can go do this. And it was somebody that had been a visual merchandiser. So it was full of, like, new Toomey bags, new Coach bags, and men's clothing. Like, tons of everything's new with tags. A week later, a different company in a different city, Melody brings me the commission. She goes, "Look at this locker, is interesting." And I don't want to tell you what I saw, but I said, I'm looking at it and I said, I think this is the same guy. I think this is the same guy as the crate we just got.
Wow.
And I was going to put the video out, but he's got 2 other lockers. that I don't want to tell anybody how I found it because I'm going to create my own competition because the second locker I got for 140, same thing. Now
Wow.
we gave a lot of that one away. There was somebody that needed some help, so we gave a lot of that one away. But there's like it was Lululemon and just all this stuff new tags. So yeah, love clothes. I Melodies knows more about them than I do, but
most of that sales going on Poshmark for clothing items.
I put it on both, because I cross-list it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had pretty good Poshmark sales, but eBay still crushes Poshmark. So
what
Nice.
you did mention you sold on Etsy a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm going to talk about that. Like what's the decision when it comes to this is going on Etsy compared to eBay or Poshmark?
And normally it's cross-posted. It's not either or. So
Okay.
I don't have anything there right now, but like last year I sold a couple of rulers over there. And so I think one of them sold for 2,800 and the other one was maybe
ruler.
800. Think of a slide rule, but a cylindrical slide rule. So it was, yay long, that big around with 100 little things around it. And yeah, it was super cool. And that sold on Etsy. Both of those sold on Etsy to two different people. Vintage sells well over there. I'm not selling any handmade stuff,
Oh yeah, when I think of Etsy, I always think of like crafty stuff.
Yeah, no, vintage sells really well over there, but not as well as eBay. And believe it or not, the younger generation, like I used to think of Poshmark as, Baylor College is about 45 minutes from me. And I think of the Baylor girls, that's who's on Poshmark, they're, but the younger generation has really moved into slow fashion and moving away from fast fashion and moving away from Shein and a lot of these other things. And so vintage is really taking hold for me on Poshmark too. I mean, I sell a lot of it over there.
Interesting. Well, Scott, let me ask you about how much weight, and you may have mentioned this somewhere earlier during the show, but how much weight do you put to sell through rate? You can watch YouTube and let me tell you what, you can get 50,000 opinions on this particular subject on one side of the ball. If you focus on nothing but high sell through, if everybody done that, then you're going to flood the market on that and it will quickly become not a high sell through because there's so many of it out there. What is your opinion on that?
So I love looking at the sell through rate when I'm looking at items that are common. If I'm trying to decide on this pair of jeans or this pair of jeans, and I can only pick up one of them, and this one has a much higher sell-through rate, I'm probably going to pick that one. But some things, the sell-through rate doesn't matter. Like it makes no difference at all. Like I have a wooden Rolls-Royce 1929 Dash. The sell-through rate 0. Like, and I might list it, and it might sit for 5 years, and then one day it pops off, and I make $700-800.
Yep.
And so sell-through rate is absolutely one of the metrics that you take a look at. And I also look at what can I expect to get. Here's the mistake a lot of people make, especially people that do retail arbitrage, is they will look and say, oh, wow, I'm at TJ Maxx and they have marked down these jackets and they're selling for $60 and I can get it for $20. Well, the problem is TJ Maxx are all over the United States and that jacket went on sale everywhere and everybody's looking at the same data. And unless you have it listed and sold today, in 2 weeks' time, the price is going to plummet. The sell-through rate is going to plummet. And so you've got to, no matter what the metric is, you got to look at it with a little bit of common sense and decide whether or not it works for you. For people that have a real process and they can, Kat, a nurse flipper.
Yeah.
Like she can crank out stuff. She's got her some people working for her and she can get 50 items listed in a day. And if you have the processes going, then sell-through rate would be king over just sheer average sell price. For me, it's just a mixture, and it comes down to what do I like, and I like to learn about different things. So I might buy something that has a low sell-through rate just because I really want to know, like, what's the deal here, So So
Okay.
I would say you guys got to take a look at it and see if it works for you, and don't be afraid to cut your losses and move on. Like,
Yeah.
because not everything is going to work for you.
Right. Gentlemen, other questions?
Well, no, talking about the tanking prices, I did a lot of online arbitrage for Amazon, and that was the problem selling brand new clothing. It's that sale happened, say Nike.com. Well, everyone knows the sale's happening, so it gets flooded and it tanks,
Mhm.
unless you have the capital to wait until it bounces back.
Right.
Because, once everyone's going to sell out, and then you can own that market.
Well,
if you can
and the
hold
storage
off.
space. You also, if you're going to buy and hold, you got to have a
Mhm.
place to put all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And what if you're a college kid and you're living in a dorm? You're going to be limited to a tub or two, and that stuff needs to sell quickly so that you have money for books next semester. So,
Yeah.
um,
Scott, what do you think?
Our house is fairly small, so
Yeah. What do you think of Scott, the selling on Amazon? Have you given that any thought, or
we used to sell on Amazon.
did you?
I did way back when they only sold books. I was on Amazon, and books are heavy, and like I just don't want to work that hard. Like I can get books,
my back hurts right now.
Yeah, books are heavy, and I have some choices because I have a retirement check that comes every month. And so like I can turn down things that I would not have turned down at, 35 years old and still trying to make my way. I listen, I hustled as hard as anybody back in the day because, homelessness sucks. So,
Yeah.
Do you keep all your inventory at your house? You mentioned you have a small house. Do you keep everything there at the house, or do you have another location?
No, well, I live out in the country, so I've got my house is like 1,700 square feet, and so it literally most of the time it looks like I dipped it in glue and dragged it through a flea market. But I also have an outbuilding where my lumber mill used to be. We call it the mill house. It's a 16 by 20. I've got a lot of inventory in there, and where I have my lumber stored, I've got a 14 by 40 out on the edge of my property, and I have some inventory out there. Mostly it's just lumber. And then I have my shop, and I have some stuff out there too. So it's just because I haven't been fast enough at giving the stuff away. Not the lumber. I'm not giving away any lumber, but
Yeah. Well, here's one for you, Scott. This is, give us your take on death piles.
I mean, like, I more than anybody, but I look at it more like backstock. My death pile, if you want to call it that, is the reason I was able to raise my average sell price. When I go out, I know what I've got at home. I don't have to pick up any $20 stuff. It wouldn't matter if there was a truckload of it. That isn't going to do me any good. And so at this point, I have so many $50 items that I can list. I don't need to bring home $40 items unless I'm just in love with them. So it just depends upon how you want it to be. I have some space, but my space is kind of full. Storage lockers are a bit of a two-edged sword, and so are the private picks, because I hate the private picks. All of that stuff I don't take is going in the trash, and I hate that thought. And so like the last one, it was all tools. This guy bought tools. Like it was an older man, and he would buy stuff on Amazon, open it, and they'll think that's cool, and then he'd buy more stuff, and it was all new, the whole house. So like 4 truckloads of tools, but I gave it all away. Like I gave it all away. I don't want to ship tools. I still paid the people for it, and so I'm not big on death piles. I would rather give it all away. If somebody showed up and just needed help, I would give stuff away. But when COVID hit, not only did I have enough for me, but I kept several resellers afloat.
Nice.
That's great. Now, let me ask you this, and then I'm going to go back to earlier in the show when you talk about the importance of having relationships in this business. And then you touched on how you met Kevin at a reseller event. What is your opinion of attending reseller meetup events. What's your experience with that? How do you feel about that overall?
I mean, I enjoy them because I enjoy talking to people. So if you use the code Cha Ching and you buy your ticket for the Boss Reseller Remix, I'll make money on that. So I'll be speaking there this time. But I
Nice.
enjoy talking to people. You know, you can go and like and I didn't really get a chance to talk to Kevin, but his business looks wildly different than mine. Like it truly does. Like he does a lot of things that are interesting to me, and he enjoys a lot of the same things, but it's really truly different. And when you go to these events, the individual conversations for me are way more valuable than anything I'm going to say, because I'm not good at sitting down and getting anything. That's not new. Like I've never been good at that.
Yeah.
But I think there's value in it. It can be intimidating, like if you go there and everybody else seems like they know what they're doing, and even if they're just faking it, it can be intimidating if you're just trying to figure out where you fit.
Right.
Because you probably fit better than you think you do if you've been to an event and everybody acts like they know what they're doing. When we don't, we don't know. Look, Mercari changed their stuff today, and now everybody's got to figure it out again. Like,
Yeah.
So
It's constantly evolving,
moving target.
All right, gentlemen, if y'all are ready if you don't have any more questions, let's move on to a couple quick segments here so we can get this fit in. Scott, you can participate in this if you wish, sir. And we're going to go to the first one, the sale of the week. You can share screen if you've got something, and we'll get it up there. Chris Bow is always the first one in the hopper most of the time. And he is again. Here it is, boy. What we got, buddy?
Why does it look like a Hershey Kiss? It's not a Hershey Kiss.
Not super impressive, but
I sold this melted. Oh, okay.
This has been sitting around for a while. It's a crystal iceberg with little bronze
Oh, that's
penguins.
cool. That's pretty cool.
Neat.
Is it like a paperweight?
Basically, yeah, paperweight decoration. But it's been sitting around. This is an end and sell similar sale that happened a couple days ago, yesterday maybe. Not big, not big money. I ended up profiting like $20. So,
all right.
How big was that thing? Was that thing pretty small?
Yeah, it's like probably 4 inches, 4 inches by 5 inches or something.
Nice.
All
right. Well, I finally decided to list all the things I bought at the 127. So I finally listed the books that I got. Yeah, I listed the book, and this sold in a week. I sold the Alice in Wonderland gaming book. I paid $195 for this book. It sold for $349.99 on Amazon. So merchant fulfilled.
Goodness.
You paid $1.95?
Yeah, it came out for that bulk buy. It came out to $1.95 per book.
And how much was the sale price? Sorry.
$349.99. So when I bought it, the buy box or the used buy box was at $400. I think it's gone up again since I sold this. It's at like $360 right now, but $349
on eBay.
No, Amazon. So it's merchant. I started merchant fulfilling. I didn't want to send these books into Amazon because they're all $100 books.
Got you.
So, I listed. I showed you the thing. I listed $1,700 out of 20 books.
Wow.
And I still have 2 tubs behind me for eBay.
So it sat for 5 months and sold in 2 weeks.
It sold in a week. It sold in like 3 days. I think.
A week.
Our backs helped you load those tubs of books. So
you're
welcome.
Yeah.
So can I go?
One of those up.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead. What you got, buddy?
We'll do it like this. See if I can.
You got it. There you go. That's the Mavericks.
Nice.
So Spencer Dinwiddie played for there. I have 7 of his jerseys. This one sold this week for $450.
Whew.
And that's probably my biggest sale this week. So
did you buy a whole lot of jerseys from one person then?
Storage locker.
Man.
I have 7 Spencer Dinwiddie game worn jerseys. And I sold his basketball. I shipped it this morning for you just do what just sold. What sold? Hart, Schaefer, and Marks You know the locker I told you that the guy had a bunch of new clothes?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this sold for 80.
Let me get it big screen here.
Nice.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I listed it high, but I have hundreds of items out of that locker. Hundreds of new clothing items. But if you don't know the brand Tumi, Tumi,
Yeah.
like Tumi is just killer. Like I've
Yeah.
sold so much Tumi stuff out of those lockers that do y'all know what Tumi is?
Yeah,
I do.
I've heard of the brand.
Okay. So Tumi's a great brand, and I've
Do luggage
sold
too, right? Luggage and
yeah.
clothing.
So
Yeah.
but like the pieces I've sold, the last two, 225 and 115.
Wow.
So
All right. Well, I had this. It's not that big of a deal. I did a private pick vintage toy buy. This was I can't even read it. It's so small. This was a tin can alley board game from Ideal Toys, 1976 Chuck Connors. And it shoots air at these tin cans. And it's got Chuck Connors. He's back, he done all the old Westerns.
It's a little rifle that you shoot air at the cans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
wow.
Cool.
133.70, and then of course we ended up 79.76, and this had 1,300 pieces in this total lot buy, so I had about 50 cents in each item.
Nice. Man.
And a bunch of it I still haven't got listed because I've gotten lazy. So there you go. That's a little.
It is not the time, Ben, to be lazy.
Well, I know, but I'm just being honest. But anyway.
At least you're
All right. I need to move on real quick. Chris, if you'll pull up Captain Morgan comment for me in the comments section. I need to take this moment to thank our paid members to the Reseller Locker Room. First, we want to thank our MVP members, which is $4.99 a month. That's $4.99. We're not so bold to ask for $499. But anyway, we'd like to recognize the ambassador to the locker room, Mike Camparelli. Vintage Sports Flips Keith over here on YouTube. He does vintage sports memorabilia. And that guy has so much fun in his business because when you love what you buy, it's fun. Right, Scott?
Absolutely.
And we also want to thank Rick in Maryland as an MVP member. And what MVP member gets you each month as you contribute is you get backstage footage, stuff we record before we do the show. We don't do that every time. But also other footage and special videos when we go to meetups. You'll get to see those exclusives as well. And then our Skybox members, $9.99 a month. Wolfman Goodies, that's Chad over the mountain from me. He's got a YouTube channel, Trash to Cash Podcast, Flipping for Laughs, Mary McQueen, Good Water Pickers, which Andrew put out a killer video here recently you want to go see. And finally, Captain Morgan Riverboat Adventures, Alex Chris, when we talked about him last week, he left a comment, and we want Chris to read that viewer comment.
Quick shout out before Chris gets into that to Mike Metco. He hasn't put out a video yet, but he has a YouTube channel. So I want to be the first to announce it here. So make sure you guys go look him up and give Mike a follow.
Hold on.
Mike
Metco Meetups.
So hopefully we'll get a video soon from Mike.
Absolutely. And let's quickly go to the viewer comment of the week.
All right. This is from, I got it. This is from Captain Morgan River Adventure. I have fun kayaking on rivers and have a YouTube channel for that, but I do resell for a living full time. Love watching your podcast, and one of these days would love to meet y'all. I'm from Southwest Missouri.
Nice.
So he does resell. We didn't know if he resold.
Yeah, now we know.
Now we know.
He's here for a reason.
There you go. All right. Scott, one other question before we let you go. What advice would you give to a reseller that is part-time, that is looking to make a transition into this business full-time?
I would tell them to treat it like you would any other task that you're learning to do for the first time. You know, we are so hard on ourselves that we don't allow ourselves any grace when we're trying to do this. And it's what makes shipping scary. It's that you're so afraid of making a mistake. It just allow yourself a little bit of grace and time to learn how to do this. And then make sure you build the business so that it fits your life, so that you don't have to build your life to fit your business. And I think if you do those two things, you're going to come out okay.
Very good. Now we come to the final segment of the show, Scott. We always want to give the last word to our guests. Please share to our viewers any YouTube channels, websites, your store names. Let everybody know where they can find you, not only there, but social media.
Okay. I am Cha Ching King on YouTube and on Instagram. I do have a Facebook, but I'm never on it. So if you send me a note there, I may eventually see it. I still respond to every comment on YouTube. So I spend a couple of hours a day trying to answer questions on YouTube. And on Instagram, you can always send me a message on Instagram, and I'm happy to help. Because like the people on the show and all of the YouTubers and resellers that I've run into, we want you guys to be successful. We want you to enjoy this as much as we do. So I'm
Very
easy
good.
to find.
Absolutely. Yep. Go check out Scott's YouTube channel, Cha Ching King. And what is your eBay store name, Scott?
One of them is Cha Ching King, I think.
Okay.
But don't buy anything. Like I have merch on there, but I don't ever sell any. The other one is Old School Wear, all one word. It used to be Old School Woodworks, and then when my wife once you're selling wiglets, you can't say Woodworks anymore, so we had to change it.
Oh wow!
What are wiglets?
They're exactly what they sound like. They're like little wigs for like old. Like I could probably wear a wiglet, but primarily it's ladies.
Yeah, Ben has a wiglet on.
Yeah,
he's really bald.
I've never heard that.
It's a bandana, and then it's glued on a wiglet.
This is real. This is real, boys.
I got home one day and right after, because I'm always the one who did the auctions, because typically I was buying lumber, I was buying tools. I've been a woodworker for my whole adult life.
Yeah.
And once Melody started getting involved, she really liked the auction process, but didn't really understand it. So she was like, oh, I bought some stuff I like. Like she bought some lights for the house. Well, I had to take a 20-foot cattle trailer to Dallas twice to pick up the lights she bought. And I'm like, this is going to be a lot brighter than you were when you bought all this stuff. We don't need that many lights. And so with the wiglets, I had 400 wiglets. I had hair extensions. And you know what? It was super fun because I learned a whole lot about, hair products that there are people that take that really seriously, and we made a lot of money on it. So, but you can't call it old school wear and you've got wiglets.
Do you still have more of the extensions? Maybe I can get some and make my beard a little bit longer.
I probably do. If you need extensions.
I mean, I'm trying to grow the beard to past my belly button, so I need some help.
I think I do. They might be neon green or something, but if you don't care.
In green. Oh my goodness. Well, Scott, I need to ask you this, because now that I know where you reside, and I've often wondered this over all this time of watching your content. You live in Texas, but you don't sound like you're from Texas.
No, we didn't get it. I don't know how much you guys know. I've talked about it on my channel a little bit. And I always told the kids, but I grew up homeless. My dad escaped from the Seagoville Federal Penitentiary, and he bought my mom from her parents. And so most of my childhood was on the run. And we, in high school, that was the longest we'd ever lived anywhere. We lived about 3.5 years in Duluth, Minnesota. So that's what I would call my hometown.
Okay.
Because that's the only place. But we were everywhere, pretty much on the run. So, and that's part of the reason that this is important. If I can help somebody that's struggling, then
absolutely
that becomes really important.
That's a great piece to your business, Scott. And it's very admirable that you do those things to help people in need. We all certainly need to reflect and focus on others less fortunate and do a lot of the same of what you're doing. And anyway, gentlemen, it It's been a joy here on the Reseller Locker Room podcast. Scott, we've had a great time. We thank you for the time you've committed to the show. We invite you to come back to the locker room anytime you'd want. We definitely would have so much more to talk about than what we've been able to fit in here in this show. So anybody have any questions for Scott, leave them down in the comments down below. And one of us, if not all of us, or Scott, will get your answers to whatever your questions are. I know that me and Chris have kind of been lagging in responding to comments, and we apologize.
Speak for yourself there, buddy. Speak for yourself, brother.
But anyway, hey, we hope everybody continues to have a great fourth quarter over the next few weeks before Ho-Ho comes to town. And we want to let you know, the avid viewers of the channel, we've got some great episodes that's going to finish out this year on the Reseller Locker Room podcast with me and the two crew over here. So you don't want to miss tuning in for that. We upload every Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And on behalf of Chris, Alex, Scott, and myself, we can't wait to see you right back here in the locker room.